Hello friends, welcome to Programming Concepts. My name is Amit and this is part 68 of the ASP.NET Core MVC tutorial. In this video, we will talk about what is developer exception page, its advantages, and how to manage a developer exception page middleware in different environments. This is a continuation of part 67, environment variables in ASP.NET Core MVC. So please watch it before proceeding to this one. I shared the link in the description. Let's go to the Visual Studio, and this is the project which we are working with. In our previous video, we wrote a small code snip to demo environment variables. Let me delete it for now. Now we already completed our development and learned different ways to host our ASP.NET Core application. The next challenge is to improve our code. Let's learn how to gracefully handle unhandled exceptions. Let me give you a real-life scenario. In a live environment, we generally use separate database servers. What if for any reason our SQL server is down or not accessible? Let's see how our existing application will react to this situation. Let's go to Windows Service. Just press Windows key and type services. Search for SQL Server and stop this application. So our SQL Server is in a stopped state. Valid scenario, right? This could easily happen to any live application. Let's run our application. Let's run it via Visual Studio only, because in our last video, we learned launch settings.json. And we have seen that where we can replicate different environments. Let me delete this Google Message API environment variable that was only for demo purposes. Next, from the top, let's select the development environment and run this application. And as we were expecting, our application throws an error. As you can see, we get all these stack trace, even line numbers and code which we had written. Also, this page is capable to provide more information like query string, cookies, headers, and routing. This page is called the developer exception page. And all these informations are quite sensitive here. Not only because hackers can use this information to bypass your application security, but also from the company's reputation point of view. For example, if you go to any e-commerce website and you will see such pages, will you enter your credit card information to such sites and make payment? I don't think so. So the next question is, where we had written code in our application to display this information in the browser. Let's go to the program.cs class. And you can see the first middleware we added in the HTTP request pipeline is the use developer exception page middleware. This middleware takes the responsibility to display the developer exception page in the browser. Another question that might come to your mind is, why do we need to display information in the browser when we have a Visual Studio? Visual Studio breaks at the exact line where exception occur, right? But what about other environment? As we discussed in our last video, in enterprise level organizations, we have multiple environments to which developers generally don't have access. They can't install Visual Studio or any IDE there. In such a scenario where we are not able to replicate the issue, as an alternative to event viewer or custom logs, we can use this middleware to save time. That's why the name developer exception page, and it should be used in development environment only, not in the production environment. All right. Next, what if we don't use this middleware? Let's see what will happen. Comment and run this application. Press F5. You can see we are still getting complete stack trace. But how is it possible? We didn't use the use developer exception page middleware. It is simply because with .NET 6, we don't need to explicitly define this middleware for development environment. The compiler automatically uses this middleware if the environment is set to development. Simple, but that was not the case with older versions of .NET. If you try with .NET 5 or earlier versions, you need to explicitly define this middleware. Alright, let me select staging from the top and see what will happen this time. You can see we have an error, but this time we didn't get any stack trace, just a generic message. Server is currently unable to handle this request. Error code 500. For the end user, this is slightly better than developer exception page, but not recommended. And for developers, this page is not useful at all. He has to manually go to the event viewer or custom log section to identify the exact error, which is a time-consuming process. So what does Microsoft suggest? If your application is hosted in the development environment, use this middleware, or else handle it with a custom error page. Let's implement that. Go to Visual Studio and stop the application. So just apply one if condition to check if the environment is development or not. So if app.environment.isDevelopment, then use app.useDeveloperExceptionPage middleware. Else, if we would like to display some dummy message to our end users, now for that, our useDeveloperExceptionPage middleware is of no use. To display a custom error page, we need to use useExceptionHandler middleware. So app.useExceptionHandler, then /home/error. useExceptionHandler middleware app has multiple overloaded methods. We will cover them in some other video. For now, let's focus on useDeveloperExceptionPage middleware only. Alright, we specify home controller and error view, but we don't have error view created yet. Let's create that as well. Let's go to home controller. Just rename index to error. Delete comment. Then add view. And then razor view empty. I already written a dummy error HTML page to save time. Let me just copy and paste. And our dummy error page is ready. Let's run our application. Press F5 and you can see we get the developer exception page because the launch setting profile which we selected is development. Let's stop the application and select the staging profile from the top and run your application once again. See, this time we get our custom error page. Simple, extremely simple. Go to Visual Studio and stop the application. Let's go to the definition of use developer exception page. You can see it has two overloaded methods. We already used the default one. Let's use the one which accepts developer exception page options as a parameter. Let's see what we have in developer exception page options. You can see it only has two properties: source code line count, which is set to 6 by default, and file provider. Let's read the summary of file provider. Provides files containing source code used to display contextual information of an exception. Also, if you don't provide its value, physical file provider will be used. So we don't need to worry about this parameter. This will automatically pick your code file and display the required information. Next, if you look at source code line count summary, so it determines how many lines of code to include before and after the line of code present in an exceptions stack frame. Only apply when symbols are available and source code referenced by the exception stack trace is present on the server. Let me run our code once again. Press F5, and if you count the lines before and after the exception, you will see they are 6 as specified in the source code line count property. Let's use developer exception page options parameter and change this behavior. So within the program class, create new object. So developer exception page options, let's name it developer exception page options, is equal to new developer exception page options. So developer exception page options dot source code line count is equal to 1, and pass this object to use developer exception page middleware. Simple. Run your application. Press F5, and if you expand, you can see there is only one line before and after the actual exception. Simple, extremely simple. Let's quickly summarize. The developer exception page displays detailed information about unhandled request exceptions. The developer exception page runs early in the middleware pipeline so that it can catch unhandled exceptions thrown in middleware that follows. Detailed exception information shouldn't be displayed publicly when the app runs in the production environment. The developer exception page isn't guaranteed to provide any information. Use logging for complete error information. To configure a custom error handling page for the production environment, call use exception handler. So that's it from this video. Hope you like our content. If you have any queries related to the content of this video, do ask me in the comments. Till then, thanks for watching.